The High Council chamber was never this quiet. It was a massive, circular hall floating in space, built at the center of the galaxy. Representatives from over 300 alien species sat in tall, glowing seats arranged in perfect rings. Some were covered in scales. Some had metal skin. Some did not even breathe air. They had seen wars before. They had ended rebellions. They had crushed rising empires. But today, something felt different. At the center of the chamber, a giant holographic screen flickered to life. An emergency signal had arrived from the outer rim. From human space. A nervous voice echoed through the chamber. The human fleet has crossed the border. Murmurs spread instantly. That is impossible. They are still rebuilding. They lost their moon defenses. But the screen zoomed out and the chamber fell silent. Thousands of human warships filled the dark space. Not dozens, not hundreds, not thousands. They were arranged in perfect formation. Long black holes, heavy armor plating, bright blue engines burning like stars, weapons fully charged. This was not a defensive fleet. This was an invasion force. 3 years ago, humans were not even considered a threat. They were new to interstellar travel, divided, politically unstable, always arguing among themselves. The Zorith Empire had seen them as weak, so the Zorith attacked first, without warning, without negotiation. 3 human cities were burned from orbit in 1 hour. Orbital stations around Earth's moon were destroyed. Over 12 million humans died in a single day. The galaxy believed Earth would surrender. Most species would have, but humans did. Something no one expected. They united within weeks. Every nation on Earth signed the Unity Accord. Old enemies became allies. Armies merged. Scientists shared secret weapons. Programs, factories stopped producing consumer goods and began producing warships. Civilian ships were converted into carriers. Mining colonies were turned into weapon foundries, and humans worked without rest day and night. They did not cry in public. They did not beg the Council for Justice. They did not ask for help. They prepared. Now, 3 years later, the result floated before the council's eyes. The human fleet at the front of the formation was one massive ship, larger than anything humanity had ever built before. Its name appeared on the council's translation display. UN's Retribution. The chamber doors opened. A direct communication request appeared from the human flagship. The council leader, a tall, silver-skinned being from the Velcrin species, hesitated. Open the channel, he ordered. The screen changed. A human appeared. He stood inside a command deck filled with officers and glowing displays. Red alert lights flashed softly around him. He wore a dark uniform with simple markings. His face showed no anger, no fear, only calm focus. This was General Marcus Hale, Supreme Commander of the United Earth Fleet. He looked directly into the camera, and in that moment, every species in the chamber felt something strange. Humans were supposed to be emotional, unstable, easy to provoke. But this one looked controlled, cold, measured. He spoke in clear, steady words. For 3 years, we remained silent. The translation systems echoed his voice in hundreds of languages. You attacked our cities. You killed our people. You believed we would break. The chamber remained silent. Some council members shifted. Uncomfortably, General Hale continued. We asked for no war. Q brought it to our world. He paused. Behind him, officers moved quickly at their stations. Holograms showed fleets preparing jump coordinates. The blue engines outside began to glow brighter. The general's voice did not rise. It did not need to. You wanted war with Earth. A short silence followed. Then he finished the sentence. Now humanity will finish it. Gasps spread through the chamber. The Zorath representative stood up. Suddenly, this is madness. You cannot attack a sovereign empire without council approval. General Hale looked directly at the Zorath delegate. You attacked civilians without council approval. The Zorath had no answer. Suddenly, alarms began ringing across multiple systems. The screen shifted. 2 live battlefield footage. The human fleet moved, not slowly, not cautiously, in perfect unison. Thousands of ships entered, jump. Formation.energy built around them like growing storms. Council technicians shouted. They are calculating micro-jumps directly into Zorath core systems. That is suicide. Another cried. No fleet had ever jumped directly into Zorath inner territory. Their defense grid was legendary, impenetrable. But the humans did not hesitate. Blue light consumed the fleet, one by one. Then, all at once, they vanished. Chamber went completely silent. Moments later, emergency reports flooded in. Zorath border outposts destroyed, defense platforms offline, human fleets confirmed inside Imperial space. Impossible had happened. The war had changed direction for centuries. Wars happened at the edges of space, never at the heart of a ruling empire, until now. The Velcorn leader slowly sat down. They planned this, he whispered. Not a reckless attack. Not emotional revenge. This was strategy, long-term preparation, careful timing. The Zorath delegate looked pale. They were supposed to be weak. Across the galaxy, human fleets were already engaging targets, supply lines, fuel depots. Communication hubs. This was not random destruction. This was organized dismantling. The council finally understood the truth. Humanity had not spent 3 years rebuilding. They had spent 3 years preparing. And now the hunters had become the hunted. Far away, inside the bridge of the UN's retribution, General Hale watched the first battle reports arrive. Phase 1. Successful. Enemy response delayed. Minimal human losses. He nodded once. There was no celebration, no cheering, only focus. He gave one final order. Advance to Phase 2. Outside the ship, space lit up with weapons fire. The galaxy had believed Earth would beg for mercy. Instead, humanity brought war to the stars, and this time they had no intention of stopping halfway. The first explosions inside Zorath space were not loud. There was no dramatic fireball at first, just sudden silence. Communication towers went dark. Defense satellites stopped responding. Military outposts lost contact one by one. At first, the Zorath commanders believed it was a system error. It was not human. Stealth ships had arrived days before the main fleet, small, fast, almost invisible. They did not attack cities. They did not waste energy on random targets. They targeted information without communication. The Zorath fleets could not coordinate without fuel depots. Warships could not move far without early warning systems. Defenses were blind. The humans did not charge forward, screaming for revenge. They cut the Empire apart, piece by piece. Back in the High Council chamber, emergency updates kept arriving. Zorath 7th Fleet requesting backup. Zorath Border Command destroyed. Unknown human ships detected inside inner orbit. Council members watched in disbelief. One elder species whispered, "This is not rage." Another replied, "This is preparation." 3 years earlier, after the attack on Earth, the planet had been in chaos. Cities burned, families mourned governments collapsed under pressure. News channels showed endless destruction. Many believed humanity would fall into civil war. But something else happened. At first, it was small, a ceasefire between two nations that had hated each other for decades, then shared technology agreements, then shared military command centers. In less than 1 month, the United Earth Defense Authority was formed for the first time in history. Earth had one military command, one fleet, one leader, General Marcus K. He had once been just a regional commander, quiet, strategic, not famous, but during the first day of the invasion, he made one decision that changed everything. He ordered all remaining fleets to retreat instead of fighting hopeless battles. Many politicians called him a coward, but he knew something simple. You cannot win a war when you are angry. You win when you are ready. While the Zorith celebrated their easy victory, Earth was changing. Underground factories were built. Asteroid mining increased by 400%. Old space stations were rebuilt with heavy armor. Even civilian engineers were trained in weapons production. Children in schools learned emergency defense skills. Earth was no longer divided by culture or politics. It was united by survival turned into strength. Now, inside Zoroth territory, that strength was visible. A Zorith battle group near the planet Kareth received orders too late. Their fuel depot had already been destroyed. Human cruisers appeared from micro-jump points, striking fast and leaving before heavy reinforcements could arrive. The Zorith ships were larger, but they were slow. They relied on overwhelming force. Humans relied on movement, adaptation, timing. In one engagement, a human destroyer sacrificed its shields to draw enemy fire. Behind it, smaller attack ships targeted weapon systems with precision shots. Within minutes, a Zorith capital ship drifted powerless in space. Human marines boarded it. They captured data. Then they left it disabled. Not destroyed. They were gathering information, learning, improving, dotting the bridge on the bridge of the UN's retribution. General Hell studied a 3D map of Zorith space. Red markers showed enemy fleets. Blue markers showed human strike groups. An officer spoke carefully. Sir, we are advancing faster than expected. Hale nodded slightly. They underestimated us again, sir. The council is requesting emergency talks. He did not look away from the display. They had 3 years to request talks, another officer added. Zorith High Command is mobilizing their core fleet. Now Hale looked up. This was expected. The core fleet was the pride of the Zorith Empire. Massive warships, heavy armor, planet-cracking weapons. For centuries, no one had defeated them. Hale gave a calm order. Release the false retreat protocol. Moments later, several human fleets began pulling back to the Zoroth. It looked like weakness, a chance to strike back. Zorith commanders rushed their core fleet forward, confident, aggressive. But the retreat was not real. Hidden human minds activated along the predicted Zorith path. Gravity traps slowed heavy ships. Long-range artillery from concealed asteroids opened fire. Battlefield turned into chaos. For the first time in recorded history, the Zorith core fleet suffered massive losses in their own territory across the galaxy. Observers watched the live tactical feeds. Species that once feared the Zorath now saw something new. The Empire was not unstoppable, and humans were not fragile. Back in the council chamber, silence returned. The Zorith representative looked shaken. This is impossible. They were primitive. An older council member answered quietly. No, they were patient. Meanwhile, on Earth, citizens watched the war from giant public screens. There was no cheering, no celebrations, only focus. Families who lost Loved ones stood silently. Factory workers continued their shifts. Shipyards launched new vessels daily. Humanity understood something simple now. This was not about revenge. It was about ending the threat completely. Inside the retribution, General Hale received a report. Zorath, outer defense grid, collapsing. Enemy requesting emergency reinforcement from allied systems. Hay knew what that meant. The war was spreading. Other empires would soon have to choose sides. He gave one final order for the day. Prepare. Phase 3. An officer hesitated. Sir, once Phase 3 begins, there is no easy way back. Hale's expression did not change. They attacked Earth. Sir, outside the flagship, thousands of human ships adjusted. Formation, engines glowed brighter. Weapons reloaded. The galaxy had believed. Humans were emotional and weak, but they were discovering the truth. Humans did not fight for pride. They fought to survive. And once survival was threatened, they did not stop. They adapted, they learned, and they finished what was started. The war had only just begun, and already the balance of power in the galaxy was changing forever. The war maps inside the High Council chamber no longer looked stable. Red and blue lights blinked across the giant holographic display. For centuries, the map had mostly shown red, the color of Zorath control. Now, blue lights were spreading slowly, carefully, like a rising tide. No one in the chamber spoke loudly anymore. The Zorath Empire had ruled their region of space for 800 years. Their fleets crushed rebellions before they could grow. Their armies enforced order across dozens of systems. They believed fear kept the galaxy peaceful. Now, fear had changed sides. Reports kept arriving. Zorath Industrial World Kareth, secured by human forces. Zorath supply chain broken in 3 sectors. Multiple vassal species declaring neutrality. That word hurt more than defeat. Species that once depended on Zorath's protection were stepping back. They were watching, waiting. The council leader, the silver-skinned Velcorin elder, leaned forward in his seat. Why are the humans not attacking civilian worlds? He asked quietly. A military analyst answered. They are only targeting military systems, shipyards, fuel stations, and command centers. Another added. They are isolating the empire instead of destroying it. This was not a war of anger. It was a war of control. Far inside Zorath territory, Admiral Krell of the Zorath Core Fleet stood on his command bridge. His claws tightened around the railing. How are they predicting our movements? He demanded. A tactical officer replied nervously, Sir. Human fleets are striking exactly where our reinforcements travel. It is as if they know our routes before we move. Krell growled. No species adapts this fast. What humans did 3 years earlier, when Earth was attacked, they learned something painful. They were behind. Zorath ships were stronger. Zorath shields lasted longer. Zorath weapons hit harder, so humanity did not try to copy them. They studied them. Captured ships were taken apart piece by piece. Human engineers worked day and night. They discovered weaknesses. Zorath shields were powerful against direct impact, but they were weaker against rapid frequency shifts. Human scientists redesigned their weapons. Instead of one powerful blast, they used waves of changing energy pulses. Small changes, precise timing. It overloaded shield systems faster than expected. Now, in battle after battle, Zorath ships were falling quicker than their commanders understood. On the bridge of the UN's retribution, General Hale reviewed a new intelligence report. A young officer spoke. Sir, we intercepted Zorath internal transmissions. Holly nodded. Play it. The voice of Admiral Krell echoed through the room. The humans are not fighting like prey. They are fighting like hunters. The bridge remained silent. Hale finally said, "Good." Another officer looked at him. "Sir?" They finally understand. But Hale knew something even more important. Fear spreads faster than fleets. Already, smaller empires near Zoroth space were contacting Earth quietly, not for war, for protection. The balance of power was shifting. Meanwhile, something unexpected happened. A Zoroth colony world sent a direct signal to the human fleet. It was not a military message. It was a civilian transmission. The image of a Zoroth governor appeared on Hale's screen. His voice trembled. "We were forced to support the invasion of Earth. Our world did not vote for war. We request surrender terms." This was new. The Zoroth Empire was built on strength. Surrender was rare. Hale listened carefully. "You will power down all defense systems," he said calmly. "You will allow humanitarian inspection teams. No weapons. No resistance." The governor agreed immediately. Hours later, human ships entered orbit. They did not fire. They did not bomb. They scanned for military threats and then broadcast a simple message. "This world is under temporary human supervision. Civilians will not be harmed across the galaxy." This message spread. Humanity was not burning planets. They were removing power structures, dismantling control, one system at a time. Back in the council chamber, tension grew heavier. A reptilian delegate spoke carefully. "If the Zoroth fall, who replaces them?" No one answered, because the answer was obvious. Humans were not asking to rule, but they were proving they could. And that possibility alone changed everything. Admiral Krell, furious and desperate, made a bold decision. He gathered what remained of the core fleet. "We will strike their flagship directly," he declared. "Cut off the head." It was risky, but if they destroyed the retribution, human coordination might weaken. The massive Zoroth fleet moved through hyperspace, heading straight for Hale's location. On the human flagship, sensors detected the incoming force. "Sir, enemy core fleet approaching. Full strength." Hale studied the display. This was the largest concentration of enemy ships so far. "Open channel," he ordered. The crew looked surprised. The screen connected. Admiral Krell appeared, eyes burning with rage. "You hide behind tricks and sabotage," Krell growled. "Face us directly." Hale's voice remained calm. "You attacked civilians. This is war." "Yes," Hay replied. "And you started it." Krell ended the transmission and ordered full attack formation. Moments later, space exploded into light. Zoroth heavy cannons fired in massive waves. Human ships scattered instead of holding tight formation. Fast, flexible, coordinated instead of meeting force with force. They stretched the battlefield wide. Smaller human ships targeted engines. Larger cruisers focused on shield modulation. Attacks, hidden mines detonated behind the Zoroth advance. The battle was brutal. Human ships were destroyed. Zoroth ships exploded. Debris filled space like a metal storm, but slowly. Something became clear. The Zoroth fleet was reacting. The human fleet was directing. Hours later, Admiral Krell's flagship drifted. Powerless, dot shields collapsed. Weapons offline. Human boarding teams surrounded it. Krell stood silently as human soldiers entered his bridge. He expected execution. Instead, a human officer spoke calmly. "You are a prisoner of war. You will be treated according to military law." Krell stared in disbelief. "Why spare me?" The officer answered simply, "Because we are not you." When news of Krell's capture reached the council, a deep silence filled the chamber. The impossible had happened. The Zoroth core fleet was broken. Their greatest admiral, captured, and humanity was still advancing. The Valkoran leader finally spoke the words No one wanted to. Say the Zorth Empire is losing across the galaxy. Systems began reconsidering alliances. Trade routes shifted. Diplomats changed tone. And, for the first time in centuries, the High Council began to fear humanity because they understood something terrifying. Humans were not fighting for territory. They were fighting to end the threat forever. And once humans decided something must end, they did not stop halfway. The galaxy had not seen power change hands like this in centuries. System after system was falling out of Zorath control. Some surrendered. Some went silent. Some openly declared independence. The blue lights on the war map continued to grow inside the High Council chamber. Fear was no longer hidden. It was visible. Delegates whispered in small groups. Old rival species sat together. Ancient enemies suddenly agreed on one thing. Humanity was moving too fast. The Velcrin council leader finally called for emergency discussion. If the Zorath Empire collapses completely, he said slowly, the power balance of the galaxy will shatter. A tall, insect-like delegate responded. It is already shattered. Another voice added. If humans continue unchecked, they may replace the Zorath. Idea made the chamber colder. Humans had never ruled other species, but now they had the power to do so, and power changes people, or so the council believed. After hours of debate, the council made a decision. They would request peace, not from the Zorath, from humanity. A priority message was sent to the UN's retribution. On the bridge, General Hale listened quietly as the transmission arrived. High Council requests immediate negotiation. Ceasefire proposal attached. An officer looked at him. Sir, they're afraid. Hale nodded once. Open the channel. The screen activated. The council leader appeared, his silver face serious. General Hale, he began carefully. The galaxy acknowledges your strength. The Zorath Empire has suffered heavy losses. Continued escalation will destabilize all major sectors. I did not interrupt. The council leader continued. We propose immediate ceasefire. Zorath forces will withdraw from contested systems. A formal apology will be issued. Reparations can be negotiated. The bridge remained silent. Finally, Hale spoke. Will the Zorath leadership stand trial? The chamber hesitated. That would cause internal collapse, the leader admitted. Hale's voice remained calm. They attacked civilian cities. Yes. They killed millions. Yes. They planned it. Silence again. The council leader spoke more softly now. Justice can be complicated. Hale's eyes did not move. It is simple. The connection ended. The council chamber erupted in argument. They refuse peace. They want total victory. They will not stop. But far from the chamber, on the Zorath world, still under imperial control, something else was happening. Citizens were protesting. News of Admiral Krell's capture had spread. Videos of human soldiers helping injured Zorath civilians were circulating across networks. The image of humanity as monsters was breaking. A Zorath senator stood before a crowd. The Emperor promised strength, he shouted. Instead, he brought destruction. The Zorath Empire was cracking from inside. Back on the retribution, General Hale reviewed reports with his command staff. Outer defense grid at the Zorath home system is at 60% strength, an officer said. Civil unrest increasing on 4 major worlds. Fuel reserves critical. Everything was aligning. One more push could end it, but a senior advisor spoke carefully. Sir, if we attack the home world directly, civilian casualties could be massive. Hale knew that the Zorath capital planet was heavily populated. It was also protected by layered orbital shields and planetary cannons. Direct assault would be costly. on both sides. He walked toward the observation window of the bridge. Stars stretched endlessly before him. 3 years ago, Earth had been burning. Children pulled from rubble, cities reduced to ash. He remembered, standing in silence while rescue teams searched for survivors. He remembered promising something quietly to himself. Never again. He turned back to his officers. Prepare final transmission. Hours later, every Zoroff system received the same message. The image of General Hale appeared once more. This is the final offer. Deactivate all planetary defense systems. Surrender. The Emperor and High War Command submit to tribunal. If you refuse, we will remove your ability to wage war permanently. The message was not emotional. It was not loud. It was clear. On the Zorth capital world, the Emperor watched the broadcast. In his throne chamber, massive armored guards stood. Beside him, his advisors looked nervous. They could not breach the inner shields easily. One advisor said quickly, "Our planetary cannons remain operational." Another added, "The Council will not allow them to destroy a core world." The Emperor rose slowly. For 800 years, we ruled through strength, he declared. We will not kneel to primitives. But outside the palace, citizens were gathering again. Fear was everywhere. Food shortages were spreading. Trade routes were gone. For the first time in generations, Zord civilians felt unsafe. Meanwhile, human fleets were assembling at the edge of the home system. Thousands of ships, silent, waiting inside the council chamber. Tension reached its peak. They are about to attack the capital. Someone whispered, "If the planet falls, the empire ends." The Velkarin leader closed his eyes. Briefly, "Send one last message to the Emperor," he ordered. "Advise. Surrender." The reply came quickly. The Emperor refused. On the bridge of the retribution, the final decision waited. An officer spoke softly, "Sir, all fleets are in position." Another added, "Enemy defense grid charging weapons." Hale looked at the tactical map. This was the moment history would remember. He activated the fleet-wide channel. His voice spread across thousands of ships. 3 years ago, they believed we would break. They believed we would beg. We did neither. Silence filled every human bridge. Today, we end this war. He paused. Engage phase final. Cross space. Human ships advanced. Energy beams lit the darkness. Fighter squadrons launched in waves. Zorith cannons fired from orbit. The battle for the capital had begun, and across the galaxy, billions watched because everyone understood. Now when humans say they will finish a war, they mean it. The battle above the Zorath homeworld did not begin with chaos. It began with silence. Thousands of human ships moved forward in perfect formation. Their engines glowed blue against the dark space. Across from them, the Zorth defense grid lit up like a wall of fire. Orbital cannons charged. Shield generators hummed. Fighter squadrons launched. For a moment, the two forces simply faced each other. Then the first shot was fired. A massive Zorith beam cut through space, striking a human cruiser. Its shields flared bright, then collapsed. The ship exploded into burning metal. The war for the capital had begun. On the bridge of the UN's retribution, General Howe stood calm. "Tactical report," he said. "Enemy outer shield layer holding at 80%. An officer replied, "Begin frequency cycling." Hale ordered. Human ships adjusted their weapons instantly. Instead of firing one continuous blast, they released waves of changing energy pulses. Blue light flickered rapidly across the shield barrier. The Zorath defense grid started to flicker. They had not adapted. Humans had. Zorth fighters rushed forward, firing heavy plasma rounds. Human interceptors met them halfway. The sky above the planet filled with streaks of light and debris. But humanity did not focus on glory. They focused on structure. Strike teams targeted shield generators one by one. Long-range artillery ships fired precisely at power relays. Stealth vessels slipped through small openings in the defense pattern. Every move had been studied for months. Inside the Zoreth Palace, the Emperor watched the battle through a massive holographic display. "Why are the shields failing?" he demanded. An advisor answered nervously. "Their weapons adjust faster than our systems can compensate." The Emperor slammed his claw against the armrest. "They are just humans." But deep down, even he knew that was no longer true. Back in orbit, the first shield layer collapsed. A wave of energy rippled across the planets. Atmosphere. Human ships did not cheer. They advanced. Second layer weakening, a tactical officer reported. Zoreth. Fleet regrouping near northern hemisphere. Not deploy ground insertion. Teams. Dropships launched from human carriers, protected by heavy escorts. Their mission was not to destroy cities. Their mission was control. On the surface, Zoroth citizens watched the sky burn. Explosions flashed above the clouds. Government broadcasts told them victory was near. But people no longer believed easily. They had seen the supply shortages. They had seen the protests silenced. They had seen fear in their leaders. Eyes. Human dropships pierced the atmosphere, heading toward military command centers and shield control stations. Resistance was strong. Zoroth ground forces fought hard, defending their capital. But human soldiers moved with discipline. They did not fire wildly. They avoided civilian zones. They disabled weapons instead of leveling entire districts. Inside one shield generator facility, a group of Zoreth soldiers prepared for final defense. The doors exploded inward. Human marines entered, weapons raised. For a moment, both sides froze. The Zoreth commander expected execution. Instead, the human leader spoke through a translator. "Surrender and you will not be harmed." The Zoreth hesitated. Then they lowered their weapons above the planet. The second shield layer collapsed. The Zoreth fleet was breaking. Admirals tried to regroup, but their coordination failed. Human ships moved faster, cutting off retreat routes and isolating. Heavy cruisers. 1 hour passed. Explosions lit the orbit like a second sun. Finally, the last orbital cannon went silent. The path to the capital was open. Inside the palace, alarms screamed. Enemy forces approaching Central District. The Emperor stood slowly. "For 800 years, he whispered, we ruled through strength." Outside, human armored vehicles surrounded the palace complex. Air support hovered above, but did not fire. General Hale's voice echoed through external speakers. "Emperor of the Zoreth Empire, step outside. You will face trial for war crimes against humanity." Emperor looked at his remaining guards. "Fight," he ordered. But many guards did not move. Some dropped their weapons. Others stepped back. The palace doors opened. Human forces entered carefully. No explosions. No unnecessary destruction. Inside the throne chamber, the Emperor stood tall. Even in defeat, General Hale entered moments later, escorted but unarmed. The two leaders faced each other for the first time. "You could destroy this world," the Emperor said coldly. "Why hesitate?" Hale answered simply, "Because we are not here to destroy worlds." "You attacked ours," the Emperor replied. "Yes," Hale said, "and we will make sure you never can again." The Emperor was placed under arrest. Across the planet, fighting slowed as news spread. The Zoreth Emperor had fallen. The war command structure collapsed within hours. Remaining fleets powered down. The once unstoppable empire was finished. Back in orbit, human ships held position. They did not fire on cities. They did not claim the planet as territory. Instead, they broadcast a galaxy-wide message. The Zorath War. Leadership has been removed. Civilian populations will not be harmed. Local governance will be reorganized under council supervision. The High Council Chamber. Silence returned once more. The empire that ruled for 8 centuries had fallen in weeks, not to destruction, but to dismantling. The Velcorin leader spoke. Quietly, they could have erased the planet. Yes, another replied, but they chose not to. That choice changed everything. Power without restraint was normal. Power with control was rare. Back on the Retribution, an officer approached Hale. Sir, the war is effectively over. Tay looked at the planet. Below, millions lived there, families, workers, children, just like Earth. Begin withdrawal of heavy assault fleets, he ordered. We stay only until stability is confirmed. Sir, as human ships repositioned, one truth became clear across the galaxy. Humanity had proven its strength, but more importantly, they had proven their discipline. They had the power to destroy, and they chose not to. That was more frightening than any weapon. The war was over, but the silence that followed felt heavier than battle above the Zorath homeworld. Human ships remained in calm formation. No weapons fired. No engines rushed forward. They simply watched across the galaxy. News spread faster than light. The Zorath Emperor was captured. The core fleet was destroyed. The Empire had fallen for 800 years. No one believed this could happen, and yet humanity had done it in less than 3. Inside the High Council chamber, every seat was filled. Not one delegate was absent. Even species from distant regions tuned in through holographic projection. At the center of the chamber stood a single platform. On it, under heavy guard, stood the former Zorath Emperor. No throne, no crown, no army, just a defeated ruler. Moments later, another figure entered the chamber. General Marcus Hale. He did not arrive with a fleet. He did not bring soldiers into the hall. Only 2 escorts stood at the doors. The message was clear. He did not need protection here. The galaxy now understood who held power. Hale walked calmly to the center of the chamber. The Velcorin Council leader spoke first. General Hale, the Council acknowledges humanity's victory. The Zorath War Command will face a tribunal under interstellar law. Hall nodded slightly. That is acceptable. Murmurs spread through the chamber. He had not demanded control. He had not demanded territory. He had demanded justice. The trial began. Evidence was presented. Orbital recordings of Earth burning, civilian death counts, Zorath military commands ordering the invasion. There was no denial. The Emperor remained silent when asked to speak. He finally looked at Hale. You could have destroyed us, the Emperor said. Yes, Hale replied. Why did you not? Hale's answer was simple. Because if we become what we hate, then you win. The chamber went quiet. For many species, war meant total destruction. Victory meant domination. Humanity had chosen something different. The tribunal ended quickly. The Emperor and the High War Council were sentenced under interstellar law, not executed without process. Not erased in anger. Judged. That difference mattered. Days later, human fleets began pulling back from Zorath space. Reconstruction teams from neutral systems arrived. Trade routes slowly reopened. For the first time in centuries, smaller species breathed freely. But before humanity fully withdrew, one final gathering was requested. Its full galaxy-wide broadcast. Every system tuned in. Every leader watched. General Hale stood once again before the High Council. This time, there were no war maps behind him, no burning fleets, just stars. He spoke clearly. 3 years ago, our world was attacked without warning. You believed we were divided. You believed we were weak. You believed we would break. Eddie paused. We did not. Images of Earth rebuilding appeared behind him. New cities rising, shipyards expanding, families standing together. We did not seek conquest. We did not seek control. We sought safety. Key looked directly into the central camera. If you threaten Earth again, the chamber felt colder. If you bring war to our skies, his voice remained calm. We will answer. Let the silence grow. And next time, we will not stop at your fleets. The meaning was clear. Humanity had shown restraint. Once, that did not mean they would always choose it. The message spread across every star system. It was not loud. It was not dramatic. It was firm, clear, final. After the broadcast ended, the Velcorn leader approached Hale privately. You have changed the balance of the galaxy, the Elder said. Hall answered quietly. No. The Zorth did that when they attacked civilians. The Elder studied him. Many fear humanity now. Lay gave a small nod. They should fear attacking us. Nothing more. Weeks passed. Human fleets returned to their borders. Defense systems remained active. Production did not slow. Earth had learned a lesson it would never forget. Peace is not protected by hope. It is protected by strength. Across distant systems, young species studied human history. They studied how Earth went from division to unity, from victim to victor, from prey to protector. Some felt fear, some felt respect, some felt inspiration, but none felt doubt, because the truth was written clearly across the stars. Humanity does not start wars lightly. Humanity does not beg for mercy. Humanity does not forget. And if you choose to bring war to Earth, humanity will finish it. The galaxy will remember that warning for generations. And for the first time in centuries, there was peace. Not because of fear of an empire, but because of respect for a species that proved something simple. Humans are slow to anger, but unstoppable when united. And that truth echoed across the stars long after the war ended.